Well, we both lived in Detroit, and we were introduced by a mutual friend, and neither one of us was really interested in a blind date, but we went along because of him. And we met and dated and liked each other pretty well and dated now and again, but then after a while we both moved away.
And I moved to Chicago. I was offered a job with InterVarsity Christian Fellowship there. And Roger was in college then, and then when he graduated, he went on to seminary in Philadelphia, and I was still in Chicago. And one day in the mail, there was a letter marked personal addressed to me from him, and he didn't know if I was still in the office there or not. But because it was personal, they didn't open it.
You know, that was an answer to prayer. I was working weekends in churches, one quite at a distance, and one weekend I was sick with a bad cold and could not go. I mean, it was bronchitis and the whole thing. And it was that weekend that God brought her to mind, and she filled my mind more and more and more. And I had to write, not knowing, maybe she's married, maybe she's moved on elsewhere, I don't know, but I've got to do it. I had this urging to do it. And so it doesn't matter how far away you are. If God is in it, He will bring two people together. That's exactly what it did.
A side issue here is that one of my roommates, apartment mates in Chicago, was moving to Philadelphia, and he was in Philadelphia. So I gave him her name, and he looked her up and took her out one time. And my other roommate said to me, "Are you nuts?" And so we started corresponding, slower at first, and then kind of picked up, and then we became engaged, and then our wedding.
Neither one of us had any money, and we had to pay for our wedding ourselves. So it was a very simple wedding, but special nonetheless.
We had the marriage license, and we were at his family home that afternoon, and his mother gathered up a bunch of papers to put them in the incinerator downstairs in the basement, and she, by mistake, picked up the wedding license too. And we had to go down to the city-county building in Detroit and get another one, and they were really confused. Well, this hasn't even been filed yet. And we said, well, it got burned up.
And then after we were married, in Philadelphia, Andrea worked Center City, Philadelphia in an office, and I finished up my seminary studies, graduated. We moved to West Virginia, where we pastored a church, and then on to New Jersey to pastor there.
In both churches, there were wonderful people. We had a group of kids meeting and studying and growing, and that was great. And then when we went to New Jersey, we were across the river from Rutgers and Douglass College, the women's college of Rutgers University. And so some college students were coming, and so that developed into another area of ministry along with the church.
That led to an invitation to come to Michigan, where I was a campus pastor at Michigan State University. We had some wonderful opportunities to just express our concerns, our doubts, our struggles, our confusion. Students prayed together, and the group grew. And we had various other things happening. We even had a Saturday morning prayer meeting, if you can believe it, on campus. Saturday morning, kids are usually out on Friday night. They would come in great numbers, and we'd sit around a fireplace and they'd pray, and then they'd go out in the yard and play football. And while I was there, I completed a master's degree in journalism, and that's really what launched my writing career. Newspaper articles, magazine articles. My first 2 books were written there, and that's what got me started. Leighton Ford of the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association came to Lansing to hold some evangelistic meetings. And we met and helped with the meetings and so forth and so on. And as we visited with Leighton, I was telling him about my writing opportunities and interests and so forth. I didn't know that Decision was looking for an associate editor, but he did. And he turned in my name. And that's what introduced us to Decision and the Billy Graham Association.
After 3 years, in 1976, the editor retired, and Billy Graham asked Roger to be the editor then, which he was. So there were total of 25 years. They were happy years.
After the 25 years with Decision, I was getting a lot of invitations to teach writers in writers' conferences, colleges, theological seminaries, this country, other countries, and so forth. And finally, I just said to Billy, I really feel like I need to do this. If I wait till I'm too old, I might not do it. And he said, well, I don't want you to go, but then said, well, we do need good writers. And so after 25 years, we left, and that launched us into the next part of our lives.
We traveled in this country and occasionally overseas. He was teaching. He often traveled by himself, but together we did writers' conferences, and he taught at colleges and some like J terms.
So after all those years of travel and teaching and all the rest, I realized, well, my last 2 foreign trips were Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan, and I realized I can't do this anymore. And after 33 years, we knew we wanted to move to Shell Point. We came here, found good friends here, a good life here. And what's interesting is I was still able to continue my writing, teaching, editing, and helping authors develop their books. In fact, I've helped 7 residents from Shell Point develop their books. So the work continues.
He's thoughtful and kind and intelligent. I really enjoyed that first blind date that we had, although it didn't lead anywhere at that point. But he was always kind of special, and as well as nice looking. And
Back then.
No, and so it has been a good marriage. I think we're close. So yes, it's been a happy marriage. And
there's a soul kinship that's greater than anything else, I think. And we've had that. We still do it. We still have a prayer time every day together, even in spite of our own individual prayer times. And that's a communication because it's God-focused. And so I think God gives us the love and enriches the love, and it's greater than anything that you can just create on your own. So I think those are the things.